Hey folks, today I wanted to talk to you about the guitar triangle. Now this is something we've joked about on our merch before. It's something that I've referenced in other videos. But get this, I mentioned this to a couple of well-known bluegrass guitar players and they weren't familiar with it. You know who you are. So then I go to Google it and I can't find anyone else talking about it online, which obviously can only mean that I've slipped into some kind of parallel universe where bluegrass guitar players don't talk about the triangle thing and the Pringles guy and Mr. Monopoly are the same person. Anyway, at risk of our timeline becoming any more corrupted, I thought I'd tell you about this guitar concept for visualizing technique, and I'd give you some examples of famous players. Those examples nearly guarantee that this video will be claimed and I'll lose all the revenue from it. So if you enjoy what's going on here, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. Or you can check out my website, lessonswithmarcel.com. Let's go. Zoop. The first way I heard this concept expressed before was with fast, cheap, and good. You've probably heard something like this before. We can get your project done fast, cheap, and good, but you can only pick two. If it's cheap and good, it won't be fast. If it's good and fast, it won't be cheap. If it's cheap and fast, it won't be good. If you want all three, that doesn't exist. It's kind of a witty way to keep customers' expectations in check while also making sure that you're not overworking yourself by trying to make things cheap, fast, and good. This saying works the same way when we're describing play styles on guitars. We just have three different terms. Volume, tone, and speed. If I play quickly at a high volume, I sacrifice tone. If I play with good tone quickly, I sacrifice volume. And if I play with good tone at a high volume, I sacrifice speed. One difference in the guitar world is that a perfect compromise between all three aspects of tone, volume, and speed is possible, but that still might not be the sound you want to use all of the time. That leaves us with four possible sounds we should talk about: perfect balance, sacrificing tone, sacrificing volume, and sacrificing speed. Let's start with perfect balance, right in the middle. Yeah, I think aiming for the center of the triangle is a really positive goal. Achieving a balanced playstyle is a huge task. Personally, I don't think I'm very good at this, but I have tried before, so I truly respect folks that do this. Players that I associate with the center of the triangle are mostly contest players, but guitarists like David Greer and Kenny Smith, whose notoriety kind of extends beyond the contest scene, are also great examples. That center of the triangle, by far, is kind of the easiest sound to identify, at least to me. Now, I notice when I share this with people, there is a particular one of these archetypes that they have a strong aversion to, and that's playing fast at a high volume and sacrificing tone. Everyone says, well, no, I don't like that. I'd never do that. Tone is the most important, you know, harumph. How could you dare sacrifice tone? Who are you? Yet this is a really popular sound, particularly when players want a little bit of aggression, a little extra oomph. Imagine like Bill Monroe's mandolin sound. That sound is not the idealized bell-like perfect stringed instrument tone that we're talking about in the triangle. That is an aggressive, like kind of curt tone. We hear this sound a lot from someone like Michael Daves, who really loves Monroe style. Michael Daves even talks about how he keeps some of his instruments around because they have a little bit of rattle to them. We also hear the sound from players that are given attitude, right? There are certain moments where Billy Strings does this to great effect too. So it's a cool sound, and it can be an effect that you turn on for a certain vibe, or it can be utilitarian, right? Maybe you're at a loud jam, you're struggling to be heard. Tone might be something you briefly throw overboard to make sure the ship don't sink. That's not a favorite move, but I'd be lying if I said that it doesn't happen and that it hasn't happened to me. What I think most people think is the cool thing to do is to only care about tone and speed and sacrifice volume. There's kind of this like imaginary noble thing about saying, you're playing too loud if you can't hear me, and I refuse to compromise. This kind of attitude is often attributed to famous players, like Tony Rice. And there's certainly some jam footage out there where it's hard to make out Tony's playing. In fact, I've heard the same story about a lot of different famous players. Chris Thile, some folks say he's not a particularly loud mandolin player. Bela Fleck and Noam Pikelny, people say they're not particularly loud banjo players. And I think one of the reasons we tend to hear this about virtuosos, touring musicians, is they're so used to well-run sound systems. Personally, I find pulling volume out of my instrument is much more demanding than pulling tone out of my instrument. So with competent sound being run at a gig, I will gladly play to this archetype, right? In fact, sound systems have kind of mitigated the negative effects of this play style. One of the best examples is probably singers. Singers use this to great effect, like Aoife O'Donovan.
Tobacco standing in the fields, be like a November, in a bitter heart will not reveal the spring that love remembers.
In any case, if you're playing at an inaudible volume, then no one can hear your great tone or speed anyway, so use with caution or use with the sound system. Last up is sacrificing speed for volume and tone. This is another archetype that is severely looked down on for some reason. Kind of like the old bluegrass joke that a good bluegrass musician can play a 3-minute song in a minute and a half. The implication being that if you're not playing fast, then you're not a good bluegrass musician. Perhaps some of that negative association also comes from a lot of new bluegrass musicians claiming to dislike the speed obsession until they gain the ability to play faster. Then suddenly playing fast doesn't seem so bad. This archetype often makes me think of the entire Skaggs and Rice album. Ricky Skaggs and Tony Rice have recorded some seriously blazing bluegrass, but that whole record is moderately paced bluegrass tunes.
And the soul of man never dies.
This is probably obvious to a lot of you, but it goes to show that if someone is kicking a tune off under tempo, it might not be because they're scared of speed. It could just be that speed is not the focus of the moment. Maybe they're more intently caring about their tone or their volume. I think the real strength of this visualization tool comes from seeing it like a spectrum. You don't have to personally subscribe to one region all the time. It's probably worth saying that if you're about to write a comment saying, this is what you need to do, this is the best way to play, you should always be here on the triangle, you're missing the point. These are all aspects that we should master to be a more well-rounded player. This is just kind of like a way to visualize where your priorities might lie in any given song. For example, if I was playing a little more bluesy, we might sacrifice a little tone for aggression, right? Right, all of that is going to make it feel more aggressive. If I was playing a solo arrangement, I might try to be dead center to the best of my ability, right? If I was playing a fast lick, I might sacrifice the volume. If you're at a level where you can really feel those differences in a recording, and then you can also find them on your instrument, I highly recommend using this as a practice tool. The same way a singer might decide that they want more power for a phrase or more rasp for a phrase, you can decide what you want for any given phrase. Hell, you could practice an entire tune only using one voice. Practice that same tune again using another voice. See what that feels like. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this little lesson with the biggest, baddest Billy Goat in the barnyard. Do me a favor and hit that subscribe button if you're feeling it. Small reminder, there is a bunch of new merch on the website, including this glorious Oregon Trail t-shirt. If you want to talk guitar and play Oregon Trail with me, you can do that every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern, where we live stream right here on YouTube. Have a good one.